Fragile. Fragile. Not the best first sign. Whew, it is hot over here. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So it's been pretty hot out here in California, so going to install an oil cooler from Forge Motorsports. Just want to give a shout out to Forge Motorsports for sponsoring the build. I'll drop a link in the description to where you can get this product. So you saw in the unboxing that the product comes with the oil cooler with the bracket mounted. So this will go onto the crash bar. Very nice quality. Also comes with all your fittings and AN hoses and lines, as well as your screws and a couple of zip ties to clean up the hosing and plumbing there underneath. And it comes with the sandwich plate here, which will go and connect to our existing, where the oil filter sits. So been running the Kona at the track twice now, and have a few mods that help support the cooling of the car. But with the oil cooling now, I'm hoping to, during the hot days with overheating in terms of oil and just protecting the engine a little bit more so it cools down. Yeah, I wasn't really prepared for an intro for this video. So again, just want to give a huge shout out to Forge Motorsports, making high quality products, not just the oil cooler, but they also make intercooler as well as, inlet, intake, any performance part that you want. So I'll drop a link in the description to their website, as well as, like I said, a link to where you can get this oil cooler if this is something that you've been shopping for. So with that said, going to install this oil cooler kit at my brother's place. So stay tuned and we'll see how install goes. Should be pretty straightforward. I'll try to do a step-by-step. I know I haven't been doing that as well in the past, been called out on it, a few times, but we'll see and really just do a video play-by-play of their instructions that they provide online. So with that said, stay tuned. My brother's house, going to install this oil cooler. Pretty hot day today, so it takes a little bit of time to get there. Not gonna push the car super hard, obviously, to drive there, but gonna check the oil temp once I get there and then see how I can compare it to. Probably won't do some robust testing in this video because I think going to the track will probably be the best indicator. At the track I saw as high as 265. I saw people with Kona N's and other N's hitting up to 280, 285, which seems pretty extreme, but so we'll see. If anything, regardless of how much time I go to the track, I think it'll be great to have just to protect the engine, sort of in the hotter days. So, or if, doing some spirited canyon running, aggressively going to get groceries, who knows? So we'll see how the install goes, and I'll try to do a sort of step-by-step, like I said in the intro. I'm gonna head there now. So how's the KDM? And stay tuned. Alright, just so for baseline, just, drove 30 minutes, 40 minutes on the freeway. Some light pulls here and there, going about 80 average, 75, 80, nothing too crazy. And the oil was about 210, 215 at the highest. And just for the record, it is 93 degrees outside, so pretty hot day. So we'll see. Going to probably also do an oil change. Last time I did it was a couple thousand, I would say 1,000 miles ago, maybe 500, 2,000. That was short, but I did do a half track day in hot weather, so wouldn't hurt to just swap out the oil while I have it too. So now you can stay tuned.
For the oil, going to use some Valvoline Full Synthetic 5W30 with the OEM oil filter. Here's the part number, always go OEM, and obviously the oil cooler. You saw the components in the intro, but I also got this AN wrench so it doesn't damage any of the AN fittings. But here is a list of all the tools you'll need to install the oil cooler. Obviously, the first thing you do is jack up the car. I'm only working in the front half, so only lifting or putting the car on jack stands to the front only, with some car jacks on the back for further support. So first thing, removing the bumper. There are 3 pop clips on both sides of the inner fender of the car. 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom here. And there's a screw here at the very top that you'll need a Phillips head to remove the screw. Here's where filming gets a little bit difficult, but you'll need to remove the under tray in order to get to the oil filter a little bit easier. To remove the under tray, here's a diagram with the oil filter being in this location for reference. There's going to be a total of 10 push clips, and this is where they are on the under tray. Here you can use your flathead or trim remover tool to remove the pop clips. Next, there's going to be 7 10mm bolts, 4 up front and 3 in the back. Once you remove all these, you should be able to take out the under tray. And lastly, to remove the bumper, there are 4 10mm bolts that you'll need to remove in order to take the bumper off. Here I have some dress-up bolts, so that's why I'm using an Allen key instead of a 10mm, which you would normally use to get the OEM bolts off. After that, you should be able to remove the bumper. The best thing here is just to take your time, go a little bit slower, start from the top and sort of wiggle and pull until things get a little bit loose. But be careful, I did end up breaking one of the clips on accident, which I think affected the fitment a little bit. So please be a little bit more careful than I was here. Now we're going to remove the crash bar. There is a sensor here that you have to unplug, pretty straightforward. Here there are 2 bolts that I use the 12mm socket to remove, as well as an M6 bolt that I use the 10mm to remove. So a total of 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom, and this is for both sides. Here's how I place the crash bar face down, and the crash bar is a little bit different from, I would say, the overseas crash bar. So this is how I had it laid out in order to test fit the oil cooler here. You want to position it so we can enlarge these 2 holes here to act as a guide in order to drill 2 new holes. Once you have the holes drilled, you'll insert these rubber riv nuts and use the M6 fasteners to mount the oil cooler on the crash bar. Here they tell you to use a 12.5mm drill to enlarge the holes. I'm not sure if we had an underpowered drill or the wrong drill bits, but it was a little bit difficult. It took a little bit of time to get this first one done with the drill bit, but we got it done and started on the second one, but ended up using a Dremel that had a bit that was able to enlarge the hole to the size that we needed. This actually was a little bit easier to enlarge the hole with than the drill bit, but then again, I'm not sure if we had a underpowered drill or the wrong drill bit in order to make the holes larger. We did use the drill bit to use as a marker to make 2 new holes that I forgot to mention. There are no pre-existing holes on the other side that you'll need, so you'll need to create 2 new holes in order to insert the rubber riv nuts. Here I started to assemble the sandwich plate using my AN wrench to make sure I don't damage or scrape the AN fittings. And I did forget to put the 2 rubber O-rings that go on the straight AN fittings that the 90-degree ends attach to. And I had to go back and fix it because there was an oil leak, so definitely check your hardware. After that, I started to mount the oil cooler. Now that the rib nuts are in place, I can use the M6 screws and tighten by hand first, and then went back with an Allen key and tightened it. You don't want to over tighten these because these could break, and they're not like super fragile, but they can break, so be careful. Next, you want to go in reverse order in putting the crash bar back on, and it'll probably be better to have 2 people to do this step as it will make things much easier and smoother to put the crash bar back on. Next, you want to remove the oil filter, make sure the car is cooled down, and that you have some maybe microfibers or towels because it'll get a little messy with some residual oil, as you can see here. So definitely clean up the area before you mount and mock up the sandwich plate, and use the thread extension to sort of loosely mock it up so you can position it where you want it, but don't tighten it down yet. You also want to make sure that the sandwich plate is facing the rubber O-ring side up, and that is the side that's closest to the engine. What I did was took some oil and used it to lubricate the O-ring before placing and mocking up the sandwich plate. I couldn't film too clearly where the sandwich plate should be mocked up, but you want to have it sort of at an angle so that the lines can clear and not hit any major component. Again, you don't want the hoses to hit anything that could heat it up or rub through them. Once you have it in place, you want to guide your fittings and lines to the top of the mounted oil cooler. Here you want to loosely tighten them. Don't tighten them down completely just yet, as you might need to reposition the hoses in order to clear some of the areas below. Here's a picture from the instructions that Forge provides. Here you can see red at the bottom of the mounted oil cooler, and the green line is the top. Here you want to tighten your lines on the oil cooler. Again, don't want to over tighten these, but you have to make sure these are secure so there's no oil leak. And I already went ahead and zip tied the hoses into areas that I felt was best fitting. Forge shows you where you should zip tie the hoses, but because I don't have the radiator shroud because I am running the Velocitec big mount, so I had to, improvise and zip tie the hoses so that they're secure. There should be some movement, but not too tight. The next step here is the oil change, and I don't want to bore you. Started to get late with recording, but a great reference video for the oil change on the Kona N is with Lone Wolf Detailing, so shout out to Leo. I'll drop a link in the description to the video, or if you just search Kona N oil change and look for Lone Wolf Detailing's video, you should be able to pull it up. And subscribe to his YouTube channel to check out more Kona N mods and installs on his channel. Definitely give him a follow. So I want to mention here, during the oil change, I did tighten down the thread extension so that the new oil filter can be attached. I ran the car a bit just to make sure there was no oil leaks, and initially there were none during this night of testing, but like I mentioned before in the clip with the sandwich plate, I did forget some of the rubber O-rings, and in the morning I did notice some oil leaking from that area, so I did have to go back and add the rubber O-rings in order to stop the leaking. As you saw earlier, you want to put the bumper back on in reverse order that you took it off. And don't forget to put any push clips or bolts or fittings that need to be attached to the car. Also, don't forget to take the car off the jack stands. That would be bad. So after the install, I decided to drive around a bit. Nothing too crazy, not necessarily a shakedown, but just to make sure that everything was functioning. And as you can see in the next part of the video, I drove around for a little bit and got the car up to temperature. And the temps were around 177 and 195 for the engine temp. Typically, they're around the same temperature when going and getting the car up to temp. So it looked like, or felt like at the time, that the oil cooler was definitely working. Hey, hope you liked that video. Tried my best with the install instructions, so hopefully they were clear enough for you to follow. The oil cooler install was pretty straightforward. I did have some difficulty with the hole drilling, like you saw in the video. I think I didn't have the right drill bit type. It wasn't enlarging the hole as quick as I'd like it, so luckily we had the Dremel and that did the tricks. But other than that, make sure all your rubber O-rings are installed, because I did have an oil leak issue and that was more of an error on my part.
So make sure all your fittings and components are together when installing anything really on your car. So you don't have to go back like I did and and clean up the mess that I made. So overall, happy with the product. Like you saw in the video and driving on the way home, temps were about 10 to 15 degrees cooler for the oil. Usually the oil and engine temp are around the same, with the oil being a little bit hotter temperature. But this time around with the oil cooler, I saw temps definitely lower at a 183 to 190. So I feel the oil cooler is definitely working, and happy with the results and the product itself. Again, I'll probably do more robust testing at the track. I'm not sure the next time I'll go back, but that will be a good indicator, beating on the car a little bit harder and seeing how the Forge Motorsport oil cooler will perform. And I think it'll be up to the task. So again, want to give a shout out to Forge for sponsoring the build. And let me know in the comments what you think of the oil cooler. Hopefully I didn't miss a step, but if you do have a question or comment, leave it down below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and also subscribe. It'll help me out a lot as I look to kind of grow the channel and hopefully provide more install videos. Or let me know, do you like the vlogs? Do you like the track videos? Do you like the mod installs? I try to do a mix. I'm not sure, it's dependent on my schedule, and obviously having kids takes up a lot of time. So I'm doing my best out here. And yeah, with that said, I hope you liked this video and found this informative, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.